Ladies and gentlemen, this is the oldest living veteran. At least he was. He recently died at the age of 112 years old. Can you imagine what this man saw in those 112 years? Damn. Now that's some serious longevity right there. And I'm not surprised as a brother. So, Lawrence Brooks, the oldest known living American veteran of World War II, died early Wednesday morning. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. According to the National World War II Museum, he was 112. That is truly amazing. Now, may he rest in the peace he deserves. Wow. He was a beloved friend, a man of great faith, and had a gentle spirit that inspired those around him. Stephen Watson said, the museum president and chief executive. He proudly served our country during World War II and returned home to serve his community and church. His kindness, smile, and sense of humor connected him to generations of people who loved and admired him. Brooks had been in and out of the local veteran hospital in New Orleans in recent months. While still mentally sharp, his body had grown weak, according to the Associated Press. Yeah, well, at 100, and yeah, I would imagine that would happen at 112. At the time of his most recent birthday, which, let's see, it was in September 12th. That was his birthday. That's when he turned 112. His daughter, Vanessa Brooks, told the AP he recently undergone surgery, suffered a fall, and had a kidney infection. And he lost most of his hearing and eyesight in one eye. He couldn't see out of one eye, with his vision fading in the other. Still, by all accounts, yeah, can you imagine living that long? So he was born in 1909. So he lived through all of Jim Crow. You know, can you imagine the things he's seen and heard? Oh, man. And he was in Louisiana too. Oh, man. He saw some things in Louisiana. All right. His latest birthday celebration on September 12th included a drive by parade. And that was due to the pandemic, a serenade by the National World War II Museum Singing Trio, and a military flyover of his New Orleans shotgun house. Born in 1909, Brooks was one of 15 children. Woo! He grew up in a huge family. 15 children? Woo! And was raised in rural Louisiana and Mississippi. He was drafted into the U.S. military a few weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor at age 31 when the military was still racially segregated. We had our tents and the whites had their tents, Brooks told the Military Times. They were next to each other, like next door. Brooks spent his time during the war serving with the largely African American 91st Engineer Battalion, stationed in Australia, New Guinea, and the Philippines. Much of that time, Brooks was a driver, a valet, and cook for three officers, two lieutenants, and a captain, the Army Times reported. He also helped build bridges, roads, and airstrips. Eventually, he earned the rank of private first class. Yeah, I bet you they had to, it took them longer to go up in rank. Throughout his service in Australia, Brooks enjoyed a level of freedom he'd never experienced before, either in the military or at home. I'm sure he did. You know, some of those soldiers never came back. Once they got overseas and saw they were not subjected to the same level of racism and the harsh oppression and everything, and worried about getting lynched and all that. So many of them started a life in other countries. They never came back. In interviews with the National World War II Museum, he marveled over the country's acceptance of Black soldiers, which were a mark in contrast to the racist Jim Crow laws of the South at the time. I was treated much better in Australia than I was by my own. So he's talking about the white people that lived around him. I wondered about that, he recalled. While he never faced combat, Brooks did experience his share of terrifying moments. On one flight to pick up supplies between Australia and New Guinea, an engine failed on Brooks. A plane. Oh, he flew a plane. You just go on with your bad self. While flying over the ocean, the museum said, as soldiers began to throw out cargo to compensate for the loss of power, Brooks moved to stand near the cockpit and explain that the pilots were the only men on the plane with parachutes. Oh, shoot. Can you imagine that? He stood up to tell the other soldiers in there only people that had parachutes were the pilots. And if he saw them flying by, he was going to hang on as they went out the door. Okay, he may not have been a pilot, but he did stand up at that time to let them know. Wow. Can you imagine that? Why would you have a military put them on the plane and you had no parachutes for everybody just in case of an emergency? Just the pilots are the ones you're concerned about? Everybody else on the plane is expendable? Damn. So Brooks was discharged in August 1945. He got married and had a family and worked as a forklift operator. That's what my dad was until retiring about 4 decades later. Now, that picture that you see of him in the military, that was taken in 1943. His wife, Leona, died in November 2008. His 61-year-old daughter, Vanessa, had been Brooks' primary caregiver for the last 13 years of his life, in addition to the labor intensive responsibilities of keeping him physically and mentally healthy. So she had also taken charge of replacing many of Brooks' military awards and mementos, including items that were lost in the flood. She's talking about Hurricane Katrina. Apparently his awards and everything were lost. So she had replicas made. Mm-mm-mm. So in November, she succeeded in getting an authentic World War II uniform and badge from her father's old unit, according to the Army Times. He had also recently received replacement medals and a certificate of appreciation for his service from his old unit's current commanding officer. Okay, but Vanessa Brooks, his daughter, is still working on replacing her father's Good Conduct Medal he had earned while he was in the military, and the Presidential Unit Medal. Then he was left behind. His daughter said in recent interviews how Black GIs were discriminated against after World War II. Yeah, they sure were. So he served the same 5 years. He was bombed, wow, in the South Pacific, but was not offered a low interest bank loan, a reduced down payment for a house or an education, she added, recalling how Brooks wanted to go to school after the war. Brooks is survived by 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and 32 great grandchildren. As he requested, he will be buried in his new uniform. Wow. Okay, he was asked about the secret to his longevity and his long lasting good health. Brooks had a simple piece of advice: be nice to people. Okay. Wow. What a life. May he rest in peace. For real, this man deserves it more than anybody. I can think of 112 years. Woo! Now that's a long life. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.